welcome to the Wood and Work podcast. I'm Josh Taylor from Josh Taylor Woodworking. We also have co-host here Paul from JCR Builds, and today we have a very special guest on with so far our biggest Instagram following guest, and it's Build and Be Seen UK. Welcome.
Hello. Just Build and Be Seen. The UK part is that's the business name. Build and Be Seen. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Cool.
So, morning, Greg. Well, afternoon.
Morning.
Sorry, because you're currently over. Even though you said you are UK-based firm, so to speak.
Yes, I am.
You are
Yeah, got a
in fact
contract
over
at the moment. Yeah. So
Yeah.
open to
So-
at the moment.
Yeah. So just tell everyone about who it is, what it is you're doing, type thing, and let's go from there, basically.
Well, yeah. I mean, I primarily, I suppose, I'm a scenic carpenter really, and I do, primarily we build like exhibition stands and bespoke builds for events. Any bespoke build really that it ranges from all things creative, down to an elaborate exhibition stand to a stage at an event, or for example, in the past, I've done some shop fitting or anything which is just a little bit out of the ordinary, I suppose. But in that same breath, I do the general cabinet making as well. So quite an large eclectic side of things, really, in the carpentry world, really. But in my line of work with exhibitions and whatnot, there's a lot of vinyl application involved with that as well. A lot of paint finishes as well, and a lot of fixing problems on site which arise.
Yeah,
Do you mean like someone stands on one of your podiums and they fall straight through it, and then you have to?
No, God, no. No, it's like I say, in events, like the work in a lot of events, a lot of things change. Like, for example, a camera angle might change, or, a colour might not work on camera or something like this and that. So, things need to be changed quickly and unexpectedly and things like that. But so far, touch wood, no one's fallen through a podium yet. So it's that.
So how long have you been? Because I mean, like scene building, I suppose, for like sets and exhibitions, it's obviously quite something a little bit more. Is it of a niche, isn't it, within the carpentry side of things? I mean, scene building is a whole different world, isn't it, compared to making a cabinet?
Really, when you're doing things for exhibitions and that, you get some really weird and wacky designs through. I mean, some of the designers, I think they've got this understanding that sometimes that you're a Jedi and you can just hold things with the force in the sky, and there's no, using some sky hooks or just good faith, really. So you really, you've got to try and just find ways to build things sometimes, ways which are probably a little bit not unorthodox, but just thinking outside the box, really, just in order to make things work. And I like that because it challenges me. It challenges me in terms of I can use an application which I might use for, say, building a mezzanine floor, and I can use that, in an area which might not necessarily be necessary for. So you can really sort of use all your skills to try and get the best result for something which is otherwise unheard of.
Yeah, cause I've actually just started watching because I quite like Nerdforge on YouTube, because they make some quite cool sort of like scenes and weird stuff. And she's just doing one now, like a staircase, and like the three bottom stairs you could stand on, but after that they are literally just floating on with the stringer, because you don't use that bit. So you're making things to look aesthetic, aren't you, opposed to structural at times? Because
absolutely, you're bang on the money. Like especially if you're doing like an exhibition stand, the thing with exhibition stands is that they've got to go up quickly, they've got to come down quickly. So you've got to make things structurally sound, of course, but you've also got to make them in such a way whereby, that they are going to come up quick and go down quick. So as a result, if you're doing like a mezzanine floor, for example, you make it permanent. You put the nails in the joists. You make sure that everything is plumb and level. Whereas when you're doing an exhibition stand, you've got to pre-build everything at workshop. And then when it comes to site, it's got to come together in like a Meccano form, like a Lego form almost. So everything has got to be pre-built and pre-thought of, so it just comes together quickly. And then equally when it comes down, it's got to come down quickly.
So you're working under pressure.
There's a lot. there's a lot of pressure, like especially like I've worked at quite a lot of major like football events in my career, and you know the time pressure with those are insane. You know, like you know if things are delivered late, or you know, let's say people change their mind on site and things like that. So you've just got to just roll with the times to just make it happen, really. And I think working in events as well, and like especially in exhibitions and events, you've just got to be of that mindset. You know, just be of that mindset that things will change, and then when they do change, you just got to roll with it, not complain. You just got to get on with it, because otherwise it just won't get done. You know, and like you know, there's no flexible deadline for events. It is one hard deadline, and if you don't meet it, then you probably won't get paid.
You start calling up your carpenter friends, mate. Can you help?
Exactly, yeah.
So do you find with some of the exhibition stands that obviously because somebody has an idea and it goes for all over carpentry, it's not always possible. And like you're like, well, not always not possible, but because you've got a bit more leeway because it's not always structural. But do you find that some of the say exhibition designers, for a better word, have totally unrealistic ideas or concepts to what they want you to build, or do you generally find that?
No, they are. Yeah, I mean, you do. There's some of them where you've got to, you know, you've got to sort of weigh in and say, look, that's just not going to work. You know, as much as I would love to be a Jedi Knight, I am not. You know, so as a result, I can't make that work. You know, and so, but in saying that though, so for example, if they have got a crazy, like this is going back a good 10 years now. I seem to remember there was a stand which is about a 6 metre by 6 metre stand, and the back wall went up about 4 metres. And then it curved all the way around to the front of the stand, but it didn't have anything to support it anywhere from the back of the stand to the front. And, you know, I had to say, look, that's just not going to work. You know, you're not going to be able to do that. Now, typically in an exhibition hall, what you'd do there is you'd rig it from above. You'd have wires.
So you can do it. Normally, you have all the scaffolding and where all the lights and stuff go, don't you? In the
yeah,
big halls,
yeah, exactly. You'd have wires running down. They can rig it from that, but the rigging is very expensive there. So, you know, that's, you know, when you've got to weigh in and you just got to say, look, this is going to need some structural posts, you know, halfway down or something like that. And then, you know, you can work with them and then get creative with it and say, if you have a structural post here, why don't you add a reception desk here? Or if you have a structural post here, why don't you have some sort of interactive pod here or something like that, you know? So, you know, it's all about working with them and just letting the creative juices flow, I suppose.
Almost making a feature out of a necessity.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, like, as you do with, like, you know, the staircases, really, I suppose. Like, you know, with your newel post and that, you decorate it, don't you? Such to make it look pretty when it's there for a reason, you know.
Mm. So out of your projects, I mean, obviously having a look on your Instagram, you've done some pretty cool and worked in some pretty cool places over the years.
Yeah.
What have been your sort of? Do you have like any particular standouts that you sort of like really enjoy doing, or?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, there's. I think. I mean, just recently, some of my most recent posts actually was some winners' podiums at a cycling event last year in Wollongong, which is not far from you, I don't think, Josh, is it?
No, it's pretty close.
Yeah, so down in Wollongong, and it was quite a small building in the respect that, you know, they're just like two sets of winners' podiums, but you know, they're really a lot of very complicated angles to get your head round, and you know, and obviously with angles, if you're just a millimetre out here, you're going to be like 4 millimetres out down the other end, you know. So it's things like that. And there's, I think, as well, working on the Olympics in 2012, that was probably one of my big ones. You'd have to scroll way back down to like one of my first posts.
10 years ago, like, it's quite a while. And
yeah, exactly. It was 10 years ago. I didn't have a receding hairline. I could stay out past 10 o'clock and not get too tired. But
so you've been doing it a long time then?
What's that, sorry?
You've been doing it a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a carpenter really since I left university. So, you know, this is going back good sort of over 20 years now. That makes me feel old as hell. But yeah, I mean, I'm only 21. You can tell. I know. I mean, I know it's deceiving, but I am only 21.
So, what about traveling? Do you travel a lot for it, or is it just?
Yeah, I do a lot of traveling. I do a lot of global traveling for work. Yeah, I mean, a lot of my work in the past has been with FIFA, and I've been I've gone to football. I've done like 6 World Cups now. That's
Really?
currently why I'm here in Australia at the moment, because the Women's World Cup is coming up very soon, in about a month's time. And yeah, like basically, all around the pitch, for example, you've got to build timber frames around the whole pitch, so then you can brand the pitch with fabric, the colours and the branding of the event and stuff like that. So yeah, I've been all over the place, like Brazil, Papua New Guinea, Colombia, Chile, to name a few. Yeah, I've been.
Good way to travel.
Yeah, but it gets to a point in life where I'm very happy now in my workshop, doing my thing.
Yeah.
Just staying in one place and focusing on my DeWalton Festival.
Do you rent a workshop back home, or do you?
Yeah. It's still there. It's still operational. Yeah, it's still going ahead. Yeah, it's got to rent this nice, lovely workshop on a farm in the UK, and it's my happy place. It is to build away, creativity flow, and just be happy in what you do, really. Because I think really, you spend 3/4 of your life pretty much working, don't you? So you really need to enjoy your work to enjoy your life. And like from looking at the pair of you and your profiles, you do some really good stuff yourself. Looking at that van you were doing, Josh, I think not long ago, you're installating some van which can only assume was your daughter or your son in there. I think it was something like that. And then those I saw recently as well, Paul. You're doing those that like epoxy sort of like ply chopping board thing, weren't you? I think I saw recently.
Yeah, I do quite a varied stuff like, because you say it's the workshop. I don't see it as it's not really a job per se for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it's not. It's a lifestyle. I see it as.
Yeah, because when I'm sort of like want a bit of time off at the weekend for myself, I'll come up and start making something.
Yeah, I'm the same. Yeah, I am.
I'm making some models. I'm making a big model at the minute just because I'm a bit of a nerd and I like doing stuff like that. And it's it's just fun. But yeah, I know what you mean about, as you say, because you said you're obviously working away and traveling a lot. I worked agency. I did agency for about a year or 2 years, about 20 years ago. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's hard work being away from home the whole time, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, it is. Especially now that I've got children and married and that, it's just it doesn't work really. So that's why I'm very happy now just doing a couple of times when you go away, and just the rest of the time just being in the workshop.
How long are you in Australia for, mate?
Oh, it'll be until probably October of this year, I would say, and then back to the UK.
Oh, so you do like some fair like time stints, do some fair time.
Well, yeah, with only this particular project for me. I'm normally just turn up towards the installation side of things towards the end. But my wife is Australian, and she's also on the project, so it's worked quite well.
Yeah, handy.
Top tip for everyone: never work with your significant other.
Oh no, goodness Christ Almighty!
Yeah, I think she'd agree as well. Really, just top tip.
Killing them.
Yeah, top tip. But it's funny, because the world, as we all had recently, was COVID, and that, for me anyway, that completely grounded exhibition and event work. That was
I bet
for like a year and a half, really, a long time. It was just non-existent. And during that time, it was it was panicking. It was like, God, what the hell are we going to do? And that's when I started doing the bespoke cabinet side of things as well. And when I was doing that, and I was sort of in the workshop, and I didn't have these hard deadlines of events all the time. Again, it makes you realise that there's other. You've got a skill here which you can use in so many different aspects. There's so many ways that if something's not working with one side of it, you do, like for example, if you're doing some bespoke cabinetry, then you can move on and maybe do some furniture making or something like that, and so you can apply it in so many different ways, I find.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I did do about 6-7 years ago. I did a little photo set for it was actually for a Australian and New Zealand cooking magazine.
Oh yeah.
And I did it in London because our friends, she works at the Publicist, which is basically Top Gear magazine, and they're the same publicist for this food magazine. So, we need this set, and I'll tell you what, the set. So literally, the set was maybe 3 or 4 sheets of shutting ply as a wall, and then I had to tile bits of it and make it for a kitchen splashback. So there's like 3 units, a bit of floor, 2 laminate floors I had to do, so I could slide in and out. And then we had to make the units so they were movable to showcase. It was leisure living. They're brand new range cookers. So I had to make them so movable. And then, so I drove down to London and what have you. And they were like, right, you've got 2 days to make these sets. I went, you what? 2 days to make 2 small kitchens? Are you kidding me? That was include all the tile and everything, as you say. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed doing the job. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
You didn't have much sleep, I bet.
Oh, mate, we were there till, 2, 3 in the morning first day.
Yeah.
And then I was back on site for 6 in the morning. And then, literally, the annoying part was they spent 3 hours photographing. Right, rip it down.
And then
and it was gone. It was just all in the skip outside after 3 hours.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is, honestly, like events and exhibitions as well, is probably the most unsustainable industry. Because so much gets chucked away. So much gets chucked away. It's such a shame.
How do you charge for that? Do you go in on hourly rate or do you price everything?
No, price it. Yeah, you do price it. Yeah, I mean, I suppose just with experience, you've just got to know what can go wrong, and then as a result of knowing what can go wrong, you've just got to not plan for it in terms of just charge the extra labour for it. You've just got to, I suppose, really, you've just got to make things in a way whereby they can be changed.
Yeah.
Do you have to make so when you're making like your obviously go back to your podiums, obviously, which on your recent page for the road cycling just been doing. So do you make them modular so they can be taken down and moved to a other site? Because a lot of road cycling is very stage orientated, so they move the podiums around. Or do you make it as though you're making a fixed item and it's there and it's not being moved full stop?
No, everything is modular, man. Everything is modular. Like everything is in bits. So it can be the basic rule of thumb that I work of. It's got to be able to, everything that you make has got to be able to fit through a door and fit in a van. If it doesn't,
makes sense.
Because otherwise it's just too big. It just won't work. There's been a few occasions where things have been shipped abroad and whatnot. And then there's other things to consider as well. Like, for example, if they're going in a container, for example, they've got to be strapped to high heaven inside. So it's not only just making the thing that you're making, but you've got to make a crate for it as well. So as a result, it's protected when it's in transit.
Yeah.
So there's all these other sort of things to consider too, which, I mean, I say just in events, you just got to just think of the worst case scenario and then work off that. I always say.
So what on your time project, on your time scales, then as a general rule? So go back to your podiums you're making. So what's the sort of time scale from start to finish do you get for doing a project of a normal size?
Yeah. Well, obviously, as I'm sure you can understand, it depends on the size of it.
Oh, Christ, yeah.
Typically, a client will come to me at the absolute last minute.
Really? Why?
It's I don't know really. It's very, very rare that you'll get something months in advance. You say, for example, there was a stand I built. It's actually, I think it's pinned. I think it's pinned on my page. But there was a stand I built for Simba. Do you know Simba, the mattresses? Do you know those that they sort of fold up to nothing? Do you know those?
Not really. Go.
No. Okay. Well, anyway, they're these mattresses which fold up into a box, and then when you unbox them, they just go out into one massive mattress. And I had to build a travelling stand for that, and it was like a sleep pod. It is actually pinned on my page. Actually, the first one of the first ones. I was given about a week to build that.
Really?
Yeah, I was told about. Well, no, less actually. I think it was about 5 days before I had to install that. I got someone contact me saying, we need this urgently. What's your price? So, I've got to work quick, get a price across, try and be as accurate as I can. And then it gets approved and you've just got to just got to hit it hard. And that's when, as you said there, Paul, about doing the cooking show thing for Australia and New Zealand, that's when the long nights come in, and your body just goes into overdrive, I find, because you just have to get it finished.
So how long did it take you to build that? That's the one there, right?
That's it. Yeah, that's it. That was, I think it was on the 5th day that I installed it. So it was about 4 days, but they were long days.
Yeah, I bet. It's a good 14 hour days there.
Yeah, well, longer than that. Really.
And that's to get it. That's to get it like sprayed and everything.
Right. So yeah, I'd say it's very rare we'd spray anything in exhibitions events. Very rare, simply because things are always in transit. Things can get chipped as well. A lot of stands, they get stored as well. Like in 2018, you might do the stand and they'll store it for the next year, the same show. So you store it. So because they're going to get moved around on that, as you both know, if you chip a laminate or a spray finish, it's not just a simple case of touching it up. The whole
spray it.
The whole thing has got to be redone.
Yeah.
So if it's a roller paint finish, and when I say roller paint finish to clients, a lot of them just think it's a slap on really simple, really crappy finish that you might see from B&Q or something. But you do your due diligence, you sand.
Well, you can get a good finish with roller all day long.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, as long as you prepare it well, you get a great finish. No, you really can. So everything is really a roller finish. So if there is any chips or dents, it can be very easily fixed. But yeah, so I mean, in that respect, yeah. And then, as I mentioned at the beginning, there's a lot of vinyl application there. You can see like the Simba logo and all the words and text and that. We get that printed and obviously apply it on site as well. So yeah, there's a lot to it. I think I did lose a few years of my life actually doing that job. I do. I remember actually one time when I was building that, I think I was near the end and I was sort of thinking, I was panic was starting to drop a little bit because I thought to myself, okay, I think I'm going to pull this off. I think I'm going to be okay. So I got home, I bought a couple of bottles of Peroni, which I've got on me right now. And I got
unfortunately.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, I flew back from Adelaide today. Actually, I had to build a load of frames in Adelaide.
Oh, right.
So and hence having a Peroni. But anyway, I got out my van. I had my 2 bottles of Peroni, and I bloody dropped them on the ground, didn't I? Just as I got out the van, both bottles, like big, tall neck bottles. And that's just like shit. And then, so that's when the sort of the low times come in, and you're just like, all I want to do is rest and have a beer.
Yeah, I bet. You've done pretty well on your following with Instagram. You've done great, 73K, which is pretty impressive.
That's quite recently, really. It's exploded of late.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'd say over the last sort of 3 months, I'd say. I was sitting on sort of 2,500 followers, and it was trickling up to sort of 2,600, 2,700. And then I released one reel. You'll see it there. I think it's about 4.5 million views at the moment. It's when I sort of did curved piece for skirting. So, obviously a piece of hardwood could bend. And that just blew up. Like that I was getting thousands of followers per day as a result of that. And then like the next 2 after that, I think I had another couple of reels that had like about 2 million, and then another one about 9 million. And yeah, it just out of nowhere really just exploded.
I remember looking at your page a year ago, and it was pretty it wasn't nothing. The amount of followers it had.
No, it wasn't. It really wasn't. Like a year ago, it was. What are we now? What are we in? June.
June, yeah.
So a year ago, it was probably around 2,000 followers. I think about a year ago.
Yeah, I think I had a conversation with you on a post a few years ago, like about a year ago, about Traxor festival Traxors.
Oh, potentially, yeah.
I'm just jogging my memory here. So that's good to hear, because Instagram, a lot of people have been saying it's kind of like dropping off, but if you've been picking up momentum lately,
well, I mean, yeah, I agree with that though. I would agree with that, because a year ago when I had about 2,000, I actually did a reel of me making a 2,000. I don't know if you saw it, but and in some of my videos, I had some special effects in there. I do a bit of green screening, so I had like this explosion happen, and then 2,000 followers and all this sort of thing. And that did really well. And then there's a couple of posts after that did really well. And then it just nothing for months, to be honest with you. It was there was just no following whatsoever, and you follow all the advice, like interact and post regularly and all this sort of thing, and just nothing was happening. And I was getting, as most people probably do, pretty frustrated with it. Really, after a while, I really was getting pretty frustrated. Just sort of think to myself, like, why am I bothering? And the whole reason I was bothering is, most people really do, I suppose, is for business, to market the business and show what you're capable of and bring it in. Because, in my opinion, you can have a website and you need a website, but people have got to know what to search for to get your website.
Yeah.
Whereas on Instagram, a lot of people scroll Instagram and Facebook. So if you take it to them and they look at what you do and they're like, oh, that's cool, I remember him, and then, or her. And then as time evolves, they can, oh, I remember that person that did that reel. Oh, who were they? And punch it in and like, oh, it's Build to Be Seen. Yeah, oh, cool. And then as a result, you can get some business from that. So that's the whole reason I started. Yeah, really doing social media.
It's a whole different skill set, isn't it? It's not almost about who's the best carpenter, because there's apprentices out there with hundreds of thousands and millions of followers. It's like, who can present it the best via video form? That's kind of what it's sort of.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
The set building, your scene building has helped you with your creative side with filming as well.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, it's it all started from COVID, really. When COVID happened and everything dropped down, that's when I was sort of had time to think to myself, right, here's a way to market the business back. And then when you find yourself taking joy in the process, and look, I mean, from this now, I'm chatting to you two, and this is really, it's a good thing to talk about our trades and talk about how our trades can help us and all this sort of thing, And so straight away, it's a great thing, isn't it? That you can build a community like that.
Oh, we've met some cracking. I mean, I think you're episode 21. So we are only a fledgling podcast. We are in the early stages compared to some of the long timers. But I mean, the amount of people that we're sort of meeting because of the podcast that we wouldn't necessarily talk to. I mean, I know we've had little conversations in the past on posts or whatever over those shoes. I've not done my videos yet, actually, on them shoes. Oh dear. But do you know what I mean? You don't really speak to people, but the podcast is really, I found, as you say, we're talking and approaching other people that we wouldn't necessarily approach to have on as a guest. No. We're trying to appeal to a wider audience. So we're then meeting people that we wouldn't necessarily talk to per se. And it is such a good networking tool.
Oh, it is. Yeah, no, it really is. Definitely is. 100% is. It's just such a great way to. I mean, I've always found that, say, for example, if someone says, "Oh, I need this building, can you do it?" And if I've done a video, something like that in the past, I can say, "Yeah, here's a link. Have a look."
Yeah.
And then
there you go.
You know what I mean? If they can see you do it, if they can see you doing the skill that's required, I think it makes all the difference.
Yeah, I mean, that's why originally I started off my Instagram was more as a portfolio, if you like.
Yeah, no,
because back when you would have been the same as me, like, so back in day, I mean, Josh will piss himself at this, like, so when you used to go to your customer's job and you'd have a photograph album with some photos of your working.
I remember that.
So, so someone decided they wanted my portfolio at some point, and typically that was the only set of photos I had of all those jobs and stuff. I mean, it was years later when I started my Instagram, don't get me wrong, and social media, but I thought at least it's that, hypothetically, it's there, and it's always there. So it's a very, and people say to me all the time, "Oh, what about this?" And you're like, "Oh, actually, I did this job." I mean, you have to scroll through for the years and years and years it is now, but you scroll through and like, I mean, me gas fitter wants some oak stringing doing on some stringers done on the stairs. Well, he wants oak balancers. Oh, you needed the strings, clad the strings as well, mate. Oh, what do you mean? So I've sent him a picture of one that I did to show him what you mean. And as you say, quite often I do find when I meet clients, oh, what about this? Or what about that? Actually, I've done this. Here's what it looks like. Yeah. And then because you're showing them also, as you say, you're showing the fact of you've done that as well. I think, I mean, I've changed direction with me my Instagram's gone more content creating now opposed to portfolio per se, because that's the direction I'm going with stuff. But it's your portfolio on a piece of paper, isn't it?
Everyone used to carry around like brochures.
Yes.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Well,
remember.
like photo albums.
It was as a photo. Man was a photo album, mate. So literally, I'd have 8 set. See, mate, it was dead funny. The other week we had him and who was it now? One of the young lads on. I think it was NF Builds, and we were talking about doing framework, and he was like, they were talking about nail guns. I said, "Here's my first nail gun, mate." And I reached over and got a hammer. And he went, "What?" I said, "We did not have nail guns. This is how we learned how to frame." And they because Josh is what, you're 30. 32, are you, Josh? Something? Yeah. So, I mean, I'm 45, like. So, do you know what I mean? We've been in the trade for so, yeah. So,
saying that, I was on site a couple of weeks ago. My PAS loads broke. I thought, fuck, what am I going to do?
Honestly,
I thought about, I've got to go get it serviced. I thought, do you know what? Maybe I just hammer this. I honestly tried, and I was like,
"It's so funny."
I thought, "Fuck this! I am not doing that." I didn't even bother putting the fucking wall up. I'd wait till I get it serviced.
It's so funny you say that, because as I think I just mentioned, I had to go to Adelaide yesterday to build a load of timber frames. It's on my stories actually, all the frames I built, and my PAS load, actually the gas ran out, and I thought I had more gas fuel cells on me, but I didn't. And I was like, "Oh shit! What am I going to do?" And I was like, exact as your thoughts there, Josh. I was like, "Well, I could just, I suppose, separate all the nails and get my hammer out." And then I did one. I was like, "Oh, this is going to take forever." No, and it was really slowing me down. And I was like, "Let me just weigh this up. If I then drive now to Sydney Tools or a Bunnings,
I need a PAS load."
Yeah, exactly. But then of me hammering it, so then I was like, "No, I'll keep hammering it. I'm a carpenter. I can do this." And then I was like, "Actually, and I'm not doing this. I'm gonna go and get a fuel cell."
Yeah,
this will be funny. So tomorrow,
good move.
I'm actually doing a small framing job at the minute for one of my developer clients, and I'd left one of the stud walls to do tomorrow, which I know it's Sunday. The idea is there's no one else on the job. I'm going to film it from YouTube. So this is how you build a stud wall block. You know what I mean? So it'll be quieter. So I was actually going to show people how they can use a hammer and nail if they don't have a nail gun, because it's a DIY series, and also screw it. Use screws if you had to.
Yeah.
So tomorrow when I'm recording, I'm going to be pissing myself thinking about you two. Now,
well, that's it.
Fucking hammers.
You should.
But then in that same breath, though, like when we were talking about the traditional way, there's a friend of mine in the UK, lives up in Leeds. He's like I think he's like a website developer or something like that. I don't actually know what he does. Sorry, Rob, if you're watching. But he was really proud of himself because he said, "Oh, I just bought a new drill and I'll show you." And I was like, "Oh, you haven't got like a bloody Ryobi one, have you? Or like a Rosito or something like that?" And he had one of those.
I've got one. I've got that mine here somewhere still.
Have you? Do you use it?
I have to. I do it on model things. I do, because it's different. A power drill you can't use on times. I've got me Yankee screwdriver here somewhere, pal, and everything still.
Oh yeah, I mean, I still use a screwdriver. Actually, I do sometimes.
Did you have what were they called? Those do you remember the old drills with the old augers when we'd have a power drill, and it'd have like a bend in the handle with a U, and you'd go round.
Yeah. And you can tighten up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, God, that is.
Josh doesn't know what. Josh does not know what we're talking about here at all.
My dad had one of them. I know. I do remember them. But
it makes me really tool technology how much better it's getting. Like
it's scary good.
Oh, it's just. I mean, even now, like I'm DeWalt and Festool for me. Like DeWalt and Festool are my go-tos. I'd have every tool Festool if I could, but I can't afford it. So I have DeWalt, but even DeWalt now, I've got like a new. I think it's called like a power cell or something like that.
It's the flex volt that's got up one answer. They've improved the flex volt almost, haven't they? To the power cells, yeah.
And I saw one. I was like, "Oh, I think I might," because the flex volt. I like the flex volts. Don't get me wrong, but they are bloody heavy. Like if you've got it on your drill, for example, when you've got like a 6 amp or a 9 amp hour battery on your drill, and you've got it on your tool belt, you can really feel different.
It's heavy, but yeah. See, that's the difference. It comes back to the tool conversation. We always have the tool conversation, and it's funny because I am 90% Festool in my setup but I'm doing finishing, so a lot of mine's 240. I do have some DeWalt battery stuff. Don't get me wrong, because you need it. But again, I suppose with your job, you don't always have that power available without having to run 600 meters of extension leads or whatever. So that's where batteries come into it for you, don't they? Like battery tools.
It's true. The one exception I find of that though is a router. Like a router is like a sort of part. Well, I've got my plunge router, my trimmer.
Palm routers. Yeah,
I use that like extensively. It gets me out of so much trouble. And on the batteries, they just don't last. They just don't last for what I need them to on site. So that's the only exception, really. And in that respect, sometimes I've just got to try and find power. There's been times that I've like had a 60 meter extension from somewhere just to make it work. So that's the only exception there, really. Because for example, on the exhibition halls, you tend to run power underneath your floor, and sometimes they have their 3-phase cables, and they're really thick. And you only have like normally about a 40 mil raised floor. So, and these, some of these cables are 50 mil. So you find yourself having to make a massive rebate on the underside of your floor to enable the 3-phase to fit in. And
for you, like a void for the power.
Exactly. But then doing that with a battery powered router, it will just die within 10 minutes. It's just too much power for it. But,
what about that? There's a Mafel though with like I think it's designed for oak framing more, but it's got like a really wide dado stack blade on it. But like it's like a plunge saw.
Yeah.
But they actually have one. It's like a dado stack on the.
I have seen them.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a bloke I follow called Simon Bowler, I think his name is. I don't know.
He does all the oak framing. Yeah,
the oak framing. He's got one of them, hasn't he?
He has. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen one of them, and I was just like, wow. That is awesome. And I messaged him about it actually. And he told me it cost him about. I think he said it was about £1,500.
I think about 1,100-1,600 quid for one.
Yeah, and I was just like, Christ. That's I suppose. But then I suppose you've got to weigh it up, haven't you? Because the amount of time it's going to take him to cut loads of little cuts with his circular saw and then chisel it all out. With an
oak framing, that ain't happening.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's how you used to do it, don't get me wrong, back in daylight or whatever, but I mean, he's got big arms as well, hasn't he?
Why is he framing with oak?
He seems very well built.
So what was that, Josh?
Why is he framing with oak? What's he doing with that?
He does oak frames. So like, when you do like, it's quite a traditional thing, so like oak porches. And
is he in England?
Yeah, he is, yeah.
Is he in English?
I've actually got him on the list to contacts actually to get on.
Have you? Yeah, I was going to say you should. He'd be a good one to chat to. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's on the list of people with that booked up in advance already. Now I'm booking in for October, November as it is, so I don't be contacting people too far in advance.
Yeah.
Oak framing is like we do all the porches and the purlings, and they're quite, they do like wedding barns in it. So it's like the old traditional.
Oh yeah,
purlings.
I've got him up here. Oh, okay.
He does all the gazebos. There's loads of gazebos and that as well. He does some really
his work's quality.
Yeah, he does. Does some really good, very nice stuff. He does, and he's always very active on stories and whatnot, and it's quite entertaining to watch.
Yeah, I followed him for a couple of years, I think now.
Yeah,
he's definitely. I think he's definitely one of the, in my mind, one of the leading authorities on oak framing in the UK.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with that.
Do you know what I mean?
No, he is. He seems that he's got a hell of a following. He's got about 150. He's in front of you now, Josh. He's about 150.
130. I think 132.
Yeah, no, he does some quality gear. He does. But,
no, he does. But I mean, when he said to me, when I saw that one, and I was just like, Jesus Christ! I mean, that is just, God. I mean, that would save so much time, wouldn't it? Just having one of those.
Time is money, though.
Have you thought about doing sponsors then? Now you're on 70k, and you're pretty attractive to brands with that high.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a few offers, but then I just the way I look at it is I'm in this for the love of of what I do. I'm in this for the love of carpentry and all this and all that. So if I've had a couple. I had a jewelry company contact me actually saying if I could market their jewelry, and I was a bit like, the only jewelry I wear is my own. So don't forget about that. I had that. I think you both have had this as well with indestructible shoes.
Yeah.
They were just probably the worst work boots I've ever had in my life.
Mine are on the side. They keep messaging me saying, "Where's your video? Where's your video?" I'm like, it's on the list to film. It will get done. And I thought, you are not going to like the video.
Well, this is what I said to them. I did about 4 videos.
I saw yours. You sent them to me.
See them, yeah.
Good.
Believe it or not, with my cherry picker I had, it went straight over the boot, and the boot was fine. I thought it was going to be absolutely fucked if it went over it, but it was fine in the end, which I was really surprised with. But yeah, no, I've had, there's been a couple of very small sort of upcoming tool companies that contacted me, but again, I don't know, you're then sort of obliged to use their tools, and if they're no good, then it's just going to slow you down, So
I'm
not really in it for the the sponsorship side
of
things.
That's good. That's good because you're eventually someone will come to you with the right deal. If you're not looking for it, you'll get something come up where you're like, actually, do you know what? I like that.
Yeah, I think you got to remember really. I think as I've got older, I've come to myself anyway. I've come to realise what is important. It's just so I just think it's nice to leave some form of legacy in life that that people can remember you for. And I think we all try and do that if we've got a passion for something. And in the case here, in front of all 3 of us, it's carpentry woodwork, isn't it? So I think it's important that you pursue that passion.
What's next? You're going to carry on scene building, or are you going to branch out, or just go back into your workshop?
No, I mean, honestly, I have so many weird projects come my way. And I thrive. The weirder, the better, really. And I think that oh God, what is it now? About 3-4 years ago now in central London. You'd have to scroll down a bit. It was pinned, but I did these words all across central London, 12 sets of words. They're quite big. They're sort of 5 foot high, maybe about 3-4 meters long. There are 12 of them from St Paul's Cathedral all the way around to Barbican Tube Station, and they were up for 2 years. It's got loads of people, interacting, and loads of people tagging them and all this and all that. And now, when those got decommissioned, those words, I gave them to my daughter's school, and they're now standing in my daughter's school. So they're all still holding a legacy, and the headmaster there is still trying to get me to come and do a speech about it. And I'm a bit like, well, I don't know what to tell you, mate. I built them out of plywood, painted them, and done.
No, it is though, because I know what you mean about some of the weird and wonderful projects you do over the years. And I mean, I came across, going back to that scene thing, I found the magazines when I was tidying up the other week, and then they came up with my memories. It's 6 years. It was hard work. It's not for me, that sort of thing, but it was just that sort of unusual, certainly for me, it was an unusual project. And it was really cool to be part and do something like that. And that's what I love about our job, that everything's so various and wide that it's cool, isn't it, to do something a bit different.
Yeah, I just think it's great to create, really. You know what I mean? It's there's so many times when my wife says oh, I've seen this bed in IKEA or something like that. I want this bed, and I'm like, why would you go to IKEA to buy it when I can make it for you? Why? Why?
Are you insulting me?
Yeah, exactly. And then I see how much an IKEA bed is, and I think, well, okay, yeah, that's quite cheap, actually.
Yeah, if I actually made that, it would take me 2 weeks.
Oh no, you do get it.
Pay the $300 or whatever.
You do.
Yeah, I know.
You get it all the time, because there was a nice lady opposite wanted some fitted wardrobes making for her bedroom, and she's a council tenant. So, and she hasn't got a lot, single mum, she's doing nurse training, hasn't got a lot of money. And I'm like, look, I'll tell you now, it's going to be about $3,000 plus for me to make them, because you want them sprayed, blah, blah, blah. And she goes, but I could probably buy them for £200 or £300. I thought you could make them for cheaper. You're like, how? But people don't. They think that you can make something cheaper than what you can buy it for.
Oh
Because,
yeah.
but you can't, because I'm like, I can't even go and buy the materials for making that cheaper than what they're selling the whole thing for. It's crazy,
And then
isn't it?
there's your labour as well. Like the
yeah,
labour. I mean,
What you mean?
that's the thing as well.
Do you mean you have to charge for stuff?
Yeah. Well, I know. I mean, it's. I can remember now when I was doing the COVID, cabinet making for COVID. Actually, there's this one woman she was, I don't know.
Is he broken up there, Josh? Josh?
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think he's
just
frozen,
freezing.
Annie.
I was freezing. Let's see if
I'm back. Sorry.
You
Back,
back?
yeah. I got it very weird. Yeah, so you said there was.
Yeah, she goes. She doesn't even want to use any MDF or any unsustainable materials.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, well, that's fine. I mean, that's fine. Really, you're left with, natural material like hardwood. That's what you're left with, really. So she said, yeah, that's fine. It's more important to me. And I was like, fine, that's not a problem at all. So I quoted it all for an oak, and it was like £15,000. For something which would have been like £3,000 if it was out of MDF. And then so I gave her the cost, and she goes, "Oh, that's ridiculous. That's so much money." I'm like, "Well, I know. I mean, it is, yeah, because I mean, hardwood is a hell of a lot more expensive than MDF. So if you want something affordable, really, you're going to have to go down the MDF or melamine chip.
What are the veneers? Yeah.
Yeah. And then she said, "Right, that's it. I don't want to deal with anyone that's environmentally irresponsible like yourself." And I was like, well, I mean, you were the one that was saying you wanted.
Well, that's a bullet swerved, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you don't even working for a client like that at all.
No, that's the problem, isn't it? I mean, you guys must get that yourselves, I'm sure. Like unrealistic demands, I suppose.
Yeah, they're called clients.
Yeah, some of them are, aren't they? Like that.
Yeah. No, yeah, it is a massive, but it's people not knowing the cost of things, and they don't understand that things cost a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then of course you need to charge for stuff, and it's not just your time, it's all your overhead, and people don't understand that. Well, but why? Well, because that's what things cost, and you can't get away from that, unfortunately, can you? And it is what it is, unfortunately.
Well, especially like with materials, these last couple of years have just gone through the roof expensive, haven't they? I mean, it's just, I can't believe how much they went up.
Timber tripled here just by the normal stud. It was I think it was at $2.60 a meter, and then it went up to like $8 at one point.
Yeah, I know it's gone. Yeah, I mean, I even found one place up this way in Brisbane that was charging $10 a linear meter, and I was just like, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, everything went batshit crazy, didn't it, for 2 years?
That's ridiculous. I mean, I do remember like when I actually talking about football. I went to work on the Euro 2020, whereas it was at the time 21. Because it was a year delayed, obviously. And just before I went, my supplier said to me, because I was gone for like 2 months at Wembley doing it, and then they said, "Oh, you're best to buy in bulk MDF now, because at the moment it's like £19 a sheet. In 2 months' time, it could be double that." And I was like, "Right, okay, well, I'll make a big investment then, and I'll get about £2.5 worth of material, so then I'm covered." And I'm bloody glad I did, because it went up to like £50 a sheet with my supplier.
Yeah, and if you're on price work, then you're
the MDF I was paying £48 a sheet from my supplier, right?
Really?
And that was pre-COVID. That's the moisture resistant stuff, though. It's not a bad price, that.
Oh, moisture resistant, right?
Yeah. It went up to $3.20 a sheet, mate.
Wow, £320 a sheet.
Oh, that's a lot.
So you imagine how many jobs got lost, but it was 6.5 times, 650%.
Yeah, well, yeah, God, absolutely. I mean, especially if you're in a kitchen or a bathroom, then when it's necessary, like, yeah, you've got problems, haven't you?
Cool. I think that we'll call that a wrap for today, because time is becoming a thing. Yeah, thanks very much for coming on, Greg. That's been
my pleasure. It's
good little chat.
Yeah, really cool. Yeah, it was.
Cool. As normal, anybody have any questions, please either contact myself or Josh. on either the Wooden Work podcast or our own personal pages. You can contact Greg at the Build and Be Seen UK on his Instagram. I'll also link all of his other pages, websites, etc. down below. Any final thoughts from either of you?
I think the same goes to you guys. Keep everyone, keep a watch on what Josh Taylor Woodworking and JCR Builds are up to, because they're up to some great stuff, and it's always a pleasure for me to see them on Instagram. So,
thank you very much.
Be sure to continue on their journey.
Absolutely.
Thank
Josh,
you.
Cool. All right, everyone, thanks very much for listening.
Thank you.
We shall see you.
Enjoy.